Airports closed, no bus going anywhere, roads are empty. The nearest ground on board 2,600, 3,000 kilometers. So I had to go to Tehran first, and from Tehran go to the border. At that second, Tehran was getting bombed. And the taxi driver just told me, you don't have any other route, we go there.
Hi everyone. So today we're trying a new format about that, but we were thinking of starting a podcast. Well, it's gonna be about a lot of things. It's gonna be on one hand maybe personal, political, intercultural, kind of. Because this is Amir, my Iranian husband. My name is Sabrina, and I am from Switzerland. I lived in Iran for 2 years with Amir, and now we recently moved to Switzerland. But during the war, like Israel's attack on Iran, Amir was in Iran. And
Basically.
so we kind of want to cover how the war was for the people, talk about how he escaped, but also what the media says versus what's actually happening on spot.
I feel like the news don't really cover everything in the sense of I haven't seen really like a view of actual people um, on this and how it affected their lives. And most of the news I see around because I have friends, I have people, I have I know people that were affected by the war and the conflict and everything that happened. And some people lost their homes, some people just lost maybe family members, and I lost friends. Imagine like you're just going to sleep right at 2 a.m. and 1 a.m. or something, I don't know. And then just when you're trying to fall asleep, you hear notifications, everything go up, and a lot of news out all of a sudden out of nowhere, and you wake up with your phone's notifications and you see that 25 places, 20 to 25, I don't remember exactly how many, got hit in the city. And people are in the street just looking, they don't know what happened. Everybody's sleeping, and then suddenly just war breaks out.
Which cities?
Tehran, Tabriz, Isfahan, Shiraz, then south of Iran, smaller cities, and west of Iran, cities that are
Basically
mostly,
nearly every
basically, they're
all big
major
cities.
cities, yeah. And we find out that Israel did attack Iran, and it was why, because, oh yeah, Iran is about to get to nuclear weapons. And we all know that. We all know that story.
Not stopped. Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb.
Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 4
I have access to mostly Western media, as most of you guys, and he has access to the Iranian news.
The internal news, yeah.
It's very different to see what the media is portraying, and also here in Switzerland and in general, how they are writing about things or not writing about things, because they said in the West, the Western narrative was, and also Israel's narrative was, that Iran is a threat to Israel and they might get those nuclear weapons or whatever soon, as Netanyahu has been saying in the past, 20 years already. And this is why they need to attack now the nuclear sites, enrichment sites. And there's actually a whole lot of background to these things, and it's kind of funny, or it's like a joke at the end of the day, because it's not the truth. And they also called it preemptive strikes, as if Iran was going to attack them, but that was not even the case in any way. So if anything, it's the other way around, that Israel is the threat to the whole, every Middle Eastern country around it, and is following imperial intentions, I would say. And a lot of people have been confused in the West as to, well, okay, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the people are repressed, women are oppressed, and so on. And then the news are saying, oh, we are doing this for Iranians, we are freeing the women, this and that. But this narrative is very wrong. And I can just say that, on one hand, how are you exactly freeing women by bombing their country? By bombing them? How are you freeing those women? But also, Israel, or like the news here, claimed that they had only attacked military sites, right? So you would think, oh, okay, people didn't really get hurt, normal people, innocent lives, but that's not true. They attacked water pipes too. They attacked, children died, women died, people that had nothing to do with this whole thing. And what happens in the end is the government people, everybody gets to leave with their private jets. And who gets in danger? It's the Iranians in the end. And it's not like the power structures need to be really corrected in that sense, because it's not like a war between two countries and whatever. It's really one country. Imagine it just if Iran did the same as Israel did in the West, just randomly chose to just bomb the whole and attack the whole country and invade the country, I mean, we would have never written about it the way it was written about. And the difference between people in Israel and Iran is that in Iran, there are no, you cannot evacuate. They don't have those alarms that people in Israel have, where the alarms go off and you know, okay, I gotta go in my bunker. They don't have any bunker to go in the first place. So whenever Israel hits, people will die, and they know that. And the infrastructure is just not that great either. So it's just not the same. And when your country gets attacked, I think any country has then the right to literally defend themselves, because that's what Iran has been doing. And America has been kind of blindfolding Iran by saying we're going to have these talks. And they've been doing that and leading on Iran since years, because Iran has let those scientists, or whoever, what it's called, those people that watch if you're enriching uranium or not and so on, in their country, whereas Israel has not done that. And actually, even though it's unofficial, everybody kind of knows that Israel has nuclear weapons and Iran doesn't, or who knows? I think they do, maybe. I don't know.
No, they don't.
But that's not the topic, or that shouldn't be the focus of the talk. Either way.
They don't, I think, because if they did, they would have never attacked Iran.
That's true. I mean, they're leaving North Korea in peace. They're leaving Russia in peace, kind of. Why? Yeah. And I wanted to add that also in the past, Iran was in those agreements with Europe and so on, and to not enrich uranium to a certain extent or whatever. So basically not making those nukes. And then America stepped out. Then they said, we're going to have talks. And then every fucking week they met and nothing happened, nothing changed. And then mid of that talk, of the very talk that Iran and America had, Israel attacked. And then America acted like, everybody acted like, oh, we didn't know. But they knew, and they knew hours before. Even Germany knew, the government knew, they all knew, and they're all in on this. Everybody wants what? Iran's oil. It's just that. It's not religion, it's not anything like that. It's just about resources, guys. It's just about getting those resources. This was kind of my political recap. Now you can say, okay, maybe it would be interesting to see where did they hit, for instance? How was it for the people in Iran? And how's the mood in Iran, and what's happening now after the ceasefire, and what happened during the war? Because a lot of things did not get covered. Like, nobody said that they attacked water pipes. If you care about democracy and you really want a country to have democracy, you're not going to attack the things that people need to survive. You're not going to do that. This is a war on Iranians, not on the government.
Yeah, so there's something, when they start, and the second they start attacking airports, the second they start attacking places that are used by people, by normal people, to just go on with their normal lives, that don't have any, connection with the military or anything in that way, basically. It just becomes something clear. At the same time, Israel was trying to push people to get on the streets and maybe start a revolution or something. And that's why they want to make it seem like, oh yeah, look, your government is making it so difficult for you guys. Even though they are, but still, the thing is that when they attack places, for example, water pipes, when they attack I don't know, like airports and stuff like that, it's not really like, it doesn't stop the government from doing what they're doing, right? Even when they attack the police, when they attack the military and stuff, it doesn't really change anything. It's just, like when you wake up and you see that your country has turned into a war zone, and there are maybe multiple jets just going over cities and bombing that shit. It's not really the best feeling, on earth. And when you wake up to check on your Instagram, and you see stories of people's houses been completely demolished, and there's really not any info on what's gonna happen to those people, right? Like, where are they gonna go? What are they gonna do actually? Something that happens all over the world, and you're starting to feel it, firsthand. The part actually, the amount of kids and families that died too, right, that night, and the first day, I mean, that they attacked.
How many people died in during?
And I don't know, until I know exactly the right number that I know was 550 something. That people just died under the rubbles and stuff. Look, the thing is, like, when they try to attack military sites, when they try to attack places that maybe military, I don't know, like targets are at, right? There are, for example, Tehran, right? The biggest city in Iran is very packed. Military sites, military places, military buildings. I've seen it. You've seen it yourself too. When you pass by it, you see so many just people living around it, just normal people, right? And it doesn't really, like, I don't know. It's just, it doesn't make sense when they say evacuate that place. Evacuate and what? Where should they go?
Where? In what bunker that doesn't exist?
Yeah, right. There's no
People
place
don't even
really.
have basements or anything. Where should
Yeah.
they go?
There's no bunker. And recently, actually, there was news about, oh, Iran wants to tell people to make bunkers from now on, and then they just got rejected. Idea got rejected because it's too expensive and not worth it. Can you imagine? Like, you have a mismanagement issue in your own country. At the same time, Israel is attacking you. At the same time, people are not having it good already.
To elaborate exactly what those attacks were, because attacks is a bit general, so people know what's up.
Okay, so basically what happened was that we got drone attacks from inside Iran out of nowhere. So spies and, I don't know, Mossad and stuff, they just planted bombs here and there, and just they used drones, Chinese-made drones. That's crazy. And yeah, they got parts, and they made them inside Iran for a few years, and then they got ready for the separation or whatever. And then they had jets, they had I don't know, like bombing cities and stuff, just getting past the Iranian anti-air systems and stuff, hacking them, and like a lot of different ways basically. So it was not something that was thought about maybe for a week or 1 month. It was something that was thought about completely and planned out for years, even decades maybe. Who knows?
Basically, attacks made from the country within itself, and this creates obviously chaos and confusion. And it's not like back then in the days when you fought wars in the trenches or whatever. So we are talking about completely new ways to have a war, and then you can always just say, oh, whatever, it's a terrorist attack or it has nothing to do with Israel. But yeah, Israel has been doing these types of inside operation already in Lebanon with the pager attacks, if you know about these. I mean, it's quite crazy and also very scary of the new ways people find, or the West finds, to attack. And in the end, we, the normal people, all suffer from it because we don't have the money and the private jet to just leave whenever there's a war happening.
When the attacks happened, I was thinking about leaving, but it was completely unannounced. It was completely, like, out of my mind. I was not even thinking about it at that time. And imagine, like, I had to get permission from the police. I had to get permission to leave. I still had the last, I don't know, like, I was even there for getting some papers from university for my studies and stuff. So imagine, like, how I was completely planning out everything. Not only me, everybody else. I know so many people that were planning so many things for the future, for the next few weeks, next few months, and everything just gets crushed on you. At that moment, everyone was like, "Oh, what is happening in Gaza?" Like, how are they doing it? You know what I mean? Like, what's happening over there, and how did they just get completely, like, the whole saw the building like completely come down and just get floored, and then, like, it's crazy, man. It's just crazy when you see everything can get fucked in 1 second after a bomb is dropped. You just cannot continue anymore at that point. And then I just saw myself lose a lot of hope.
And why do you need permission to leave your own country? Because that doesn't exist in other countries.
Okay, so like, I think most countries have the military service thing, right, for young adults, and everybody should do. I mean, it's mandatory, or some places it's not. Maybe in Europe, for example, in Iran, it's like a mandatory military service that you have to do when you turn 18, and afterwards, after you finish your school, until you study is fine. You can just chill. But after you finish studying, I was soon. At that point, you have to go to the military service. So if you don't want to do it, you have to kind of go if you want to just get out of the country before doing it, you have to study in another university outside of the country. They give you a permit to leave the country. You have to come back. If you don't come back, there's some money that you put as like a backup. I don't know, something like that, like a deposit, and they take that. So that kind of happened to me. So you have to put around 600 down, and you leave the country. You have to come back until they say, and well, I didn't. The reason was because my school was kind of done. My papers were just there, and I was okay for that. I could just get my papers after university, just was ready to give them to me. But a lot of people don't have that option. A lot of people had one semester left or whatever. It doesn't matter. So you go to the police, you ask them for permission. They can tell you no for any reason. But I just I don't know, like magically I was able to find this person or whatever and talk to them and just get the permission. And by the next day I was already packing, and then basically in 2 days, in 3 days I think, I left. Airport's closed. Basically no bus going anywhere. Roads are empty. Only maybe were lucky to find somebody that would drive you to a city, because we're talking about Iran. We're not talking about Europe. 1,000 kilometers, 2,000 kilometers to the next city or whatever. So from where I was until the nearest ground border, there was around like 2,600, 3,000 kilometers. So imagine that. And then from there I had to go to the nearest Turkish city, and then from there maybe found an airport and just flew to Istanbul or something, and then from there again to Switzerland. But imagine how many days did that take. So the morning that I got up and got ready to leave, I think I got in a taxi, and I just rented the whole taxi I had to. And well, I went to a city in the north of Iran, and then
Don't you want to say your exact route?
well, yeah, I was going from a small city that's called Bush Nord, basically. From there, I got in the taxi. I went to
It's in the west.
the cities don't matter right now,
No,
because
it's in the east
yeah,
of Iran.
it's not in the east; it's in
Northeast.
northeast. So from there, I went
Very
to
far from the
yeah, basically, I went to Gorgan, to this small city again in the north of Iran, close to the Caspian Sea, and from there I want to go to Sari again, another city on the near west Iran, basically, again beside the Caspian Sea, but that didn't work out because no car would go there at that time. So I had to go to Tehran first, and from Tehran go to the border.
And if any of y'all kept up, Tehran was being mad
At
attacked.
that second, Tehran was getting bombed.
Yeah.
And the taxi driver just told me, you don't have any other route. If we go there, I'm like, why do you even go to Tehran? What, you guys still go to Tehran? He was like, yeah. How do we eat? How do we bring bread for our family if we don't? Yeah, we don't care. He was so like unbothered about it. He didn't care at all.
Wouldn't really
And
say unbothered, but you know when you're
no. The thing is, like, he was like, no, my family and yeah, stuff like that over everything. I die is fine, bro. The government is gonna take care of my family. And I was like, okay, all right. Kind of a, like a, what is it called? Like a mindset of somebody that doesn't have anything else to do, really cannot think of anything else basically in that moment. I kind of get it. They were, I'll tell you guys. I'll tell you guys afterwards what happened. So I get into car. I'm like, whatever. There were other people in the taxi. I asked them, why are you going to Tehran? And they were like, we're going back to our family. We're going back to work. We took our kids to our, I don't know, relatives in the north of Iran. I was a bit safer until, again, the next few days. The next few days, they started bombing the north of Iran.
Yeah, everybody thought like Tehran was literally a ghost town and everybody had left. I mean, Tehran is like a super city, so it's like 10 million people or so living in Tehran, huge
Yeah.
city. Imagine that big city just half empty. Everybody left where?
Fully
The
empty.
north, because everybody thought the north would be safe. Next couple of days, what did they do? They bombed the north.
Yeah, like, it's just, I got to Tehran at like 12 a.m. or something. And let me tell you, there at 12 a.m., it should be full of people, okay? 12 a.m. is like the time that people actually go out. There's a nightlife in Iran, right? Like, people don't really go out in the day because it's hot most of the time in summer, and then it gets a bit cooled down, and then people go out, and everywhere until like 3 a.m. maybe, like the city is still full and you have traffic. So at 12 a.m. I get to Tehran and we get out in a side of a highway or something. And then I try to get a taxi, but I'm looking, there's nobody in the street, not a single car, not a single person. Nobody. That city was dead. And I've never seen a city like that ever. And imagine like I remember going through some military checkpoints at that point at that moment because they were trying to find internal, drone operators or whatever by finding the cars or I mean they did some of them, but still. And basically how it went was that I just randomly got onto this random app that was for between city, like taxis for Uber for between cities basically, and that I never used. And I just said, okay, I want to go from Tehran to the border and some amount of money I have to pay, whatever, accept, and I wait. After 2 minutes, after 2 minutes of waiting, this car shows up that says I'll go for this much and until the border. And I accept it and I call him and he's like, yeah, I'm here. My GPS is not working. Imagine GPS, nothing, internet, nothing. So basically my internet was, everybody's internet was down.
We forgot to mention that.
Yeah, I have to mention internet, mobile internet, on anything, home internet, everything down. Because why? Because Israel is using telecommunication to control their drones. So what do? We just cut the internet. Funny, right? Um, at the same time, every single time that Israel was getting bombed by Iran or getting missile attacked by Iran, their internet was good. Their internet was working like ever. They did not cut anything. You would be able to see live camera feed from Tel Aviv getting bombed. That's a funny point, you know what I mean? Basically, what happened was that we didn't have anything to communicate, nothing, just SMS, maybe even if that worked. And I got myself to Tehran. I got into that car and I asked him, "Why are you going to the border?" "Oh, I live there." I'm like, "What? How is that possible? That at 12:30 a.m. I would be able to find a car that a dude that wants to go to that exact city that is beside the border." And why does he want to go there? To water my plants. And that's what I call a miracle because, when I got to the border actually and got into the van that went through the border to Turkey, basically, that passed the border checkpoint, I asked the other people, how did you get here? And they were like, oh yeah, we paid $150 to this dude to bring us here. We paid $300 to this van to bring us here. I was on the way for 4 days, for 5 days. Me myself, I was on the way for 4 days. The other ones even more. So right now, every US dollar in Iran is 88,000 tomans or 880,000 reals. That is Iran's, I don't know, whatever, like money. But the thing is that in a month, as a government worker, you make $200, $250. If you're a manager, $300. If you're working in the head of the government, upwards of like 2K maybe per month. But 2K per month in Iran is considered rich. You get to buy a house in a few years. You get to buy a car in a few months. You get to order food unlimitedly basically every time you want. Basically, you have access to anything you want. That's what I mean. The upper class makes 2K plus, right? The middle class makes between 500 and 1,500. Okay, so the middle class is very big, the cap. And anything less than that is poor. So yeah, imagine like $300 would be 1 month of your work in Iran.
And I
Something
would
like
say
that.
the majority fall under a $500 salary, obviously.
Basically, yeah. Majority falls between under $300.
Yeah.
$300 because I don't know really anybody that makes more than $300 a month. Well, they have many, and something else. People have many jobs. They don't have one job really most of the time, and yeah, that's just how it is right now. Back then, you could have made it with $100 even a month, but right now, like the problem is that in Iran you pay stuff with euros and dollars, but you make in our own currency, so it's kind of not working out, and the fluctuation is something else too. What you buy today might not be worth the same tomorrow, or what you wanna buy next the day tomorrow, the day after tomorrow or something. You maybe like you cannot even buy it. You cannot even go towards it because it got double the price in 2 days. depending on the situation.
What officially is the currency of Iran, but nobody uses that. Everybody is using turban. Turban is what? 1 0 less. That can already tell you a lot about how bad the economical situation is. But maybe you should also talk about how, when you Google right now, the Iranian real, the value from dollar to real will be very different than what the actual value is that the people face. Government versus what? Street value?
So that makes people buy a lot of dollars, stash it at home in their pillow or something. I'm for real, and I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm talking about like a lot of dollars, okay, and in paper, because you cannot. First of all, Iranians cannot sanctions, right? So you cannot have bank accounts, you cannot have anything, whatever. So what happens is that there's going to be a black market for it. I've seen somebody buy a house with some dollars, stacks of dollars and euros mismatched or something. I don't know. It was so funny. Yeah, it was just so funny to see it in the real action, you know. So
Also,
yeah, that happens.
you can only buy, like, officially, you can only buy a limited amount of dollars in government rate.
You cannot anymore.
And now you can't even buy dollars anymore.
They limited that shit. For crypto, we have a lot of different exchanges too, for the matter of like money and moving it around and stuff. But you gotta be really careful because, of course, we are sanctioned and no money can leave Iran, right? Or no money can get to Iran without everybody knowing. And it's just very sketchy, you know. At the end of the day, nobody wants to do it because we have to.
Explain a bit. Look, when you say sanctions, it's a general term. People don't really understand what it means. And I can say maybe what it really means. What it means is that Iranians cannot access anything, really. They cannot access Instagram, not TikTok, not any page, really. Even if you want to start freelancing, right, and be like, oh, whatever, I'll earn in dollars, you cannot. The freelancing sites have blocked Iranians. You want to show your passport, and Iranians banned from anything in that way. You cannot have an international bank account. It's all internal. So if anybody wants to send money to Iran, or an Iranian wants to send money outside, forget about that. You want to travel, again, only cash, right? Sort of, or crypto through random proxies and so on. So everything is a struggle. You are born in Iran with those sanctions, right? And sanctions don't sound that bad, right? It sounds like, oh, like the West loves to impose sanctions. But in the end, the people that are suffering is not the government. They are chilling. The people that are suffering are the people. The people that aren't the government. And the government doesn't get affected by these sanctions at all whatsoever. So every time people buy random VPNs, then they get switched off, they get filtered, they get banned again, and so on. And this is all West imposed. So even if recently WhatsApp got unfiltered, I think, by the government, so people can actually text without VPN. But things like Instagram and so on, you can only access with a VPN, and every day, like, there's a whole market around VPNs and so on. And it's not easy, and a lot of times those VPNs don't work, or they find out, oh shit, you're from Iran. Even for gaming, whatever you want to do, bro. Anything to do with internet, it's like you're not allowed to be Iranian, bro. The funny thing I want to add is that the government themselves, they don't need VPNs. They have their own special SIM card where they have internet all the time. When internet was switched off for everybody, who had still internet? The government. And now Iran is in a crisis, like as in the Iranians themselves. There's not enough water. There's not enough electricity. Why? Mismanagement. What does that mean? Maybe you can elaborate on. And also, the war didn't end after the ceasefire. The ceasefire is not a ceasefire, guys. Don't let them troll you. They're still doing internal attacks in Iran. And maybe he can elaborate on what is exactly happening when it comes to these things.
Okay, so the ceasefire was kind of a stunt, basically, to just be able to, for both sides to be able to regenerate, basically, because they got damages. They took so many damages from each other, right? And they saw that if it goes like this for both of them, it's gonna kind of, back off, and they didn't really have anything. And if me, like, when I was looking at the news and stuff, I every day saw like cargo airplane came from China to Iran, cargo airplane came from UK to Israel, cargo, like they just were regenerating all the time, and just they wanted to buy time, I feel like. And the thing is that America itself was putting so much pressure on this because they know that they cannot afford to enter a war, right? And they already are into a lot of well, it cost them a lot actually already, and they saw that their people is becoming against them, and Americans are going against America for going for Israel and helping them all the time and just giving them whatever they wanted all the time and stuff. So that kind of put pressure on them to accept this, and Iran was put on pressure basically to stop it too at the same time. So because they were in trouble to themselves. The problem that we have right now with electricity and water is not a new thing, but this year was 10 times worse, like a lot worse than last year's because mismanagement was kind of going in the same line as the war went, right? So the war happened because of mismanagement and information leak and whatever. That was completely out of just not doing the right thing, maybe I guess. And right now, for example, let's say like in Iran, oh yeah, water is cut, electricity, no electricity per day, like 3 hours per day, no electricity, this and that. In the middle of the day when it's 42 degrees outside. Okay, imagine that. And people are not used to it. And let me tell you, like we give a lot of deaths every day because of just heat, and that's it. And I mean that happens in Europe too, but it's like 2 days, 3 days, and it's because of us too hot and laws and bullshit. But in Iran, it's like we have ACs, we have everything, we have a lot to use, we have a lot to manage and use for decades, for hundreds of years. But yeah, it just never like got managed well to be able to actually use. When you come to this topic, that what is the reason that people don't actually have resources at this point, or the government just every day comes at you and says, "Oh, use less electricity, use less water, this and that," and they, you know what they do? They cut the water off, not entirely. They bring the pressure so much low, so like so low, so you have to go by a pump and a reservoir to be able to pump the water in your reservoir so you can use it, and then at that point water becomes limited for you, right? So you choose wisely when to use water and how to use it and stuff. So they're basically forcing people, they're forcing this. They saw that they cannot put the narrative on people, oh please use less if you don't have water, for whatever reason, completely brushing their mismanagement under the rug and telling people you are the reason. They every day start a new tweet, a new like banner in the city or whatever. People, you guys are the reason for the water not being there right now. You guys are the reason for electricity not being there. Completely putting aside um, how much like resources we have, how much oil we have, how much everything we have, that we can basically make electricity for 3 Irans, 4 countries like Iran. The export of energy is more important for them than giving it to our people. The energy that gets to people is cheap energy, and we don't make enough money from it. And they know the second that they make energy expensive, people in Iran were revolted. I found out that they are cutting off the electricity a bit less. But what does that mean? That means that they saw people are getting angry and then they're just doing something about it, but it doesn't really help, right? And yeah, that's just the whole thing that's happening about energy in Iran. That's very funny because we are not a country in the middle of nowhere that has no energy or nothing to use. It's just, it's funny because the country is the biggest gas and oil reservoir of the whole world. I mean, not the whole world, but still one of the biggest. And this is happening to that country.
But it just shows once again how the government doesn't care about its people, and it never did. And it always, like, even now, they're just trying to keep themselves up there. And people have, for instance, like, depending if you live close to a government area, you will have internet, right? You will have all these things working well for you. And that is very telling because it means who doesn't have these things and who does at all times. In that way, in a lot of ways, we can also say that Iran hasn't changed much even after the Islamic Revolution, even though the West claims everything changed so much, because even under the rule of the Shah and in the Pahlavi dynasty, it was not like people, I mean, he oppressed the people too, and they didn't have access to a lot of things. He didn't really care. I mean, it's a monarchy at the end of the day. We've seen it with Louis XIV in France, and it's exactly that. and the country didn't build itself newly. Like the whole like IRGC intelligence thing is just basically looked up from the Savak, which was the intelligence system of the Shah that oppressed any political opinion that was not his. So for the people, it was horrible back then. It is still horrible right now. Just right now, the rule is, instead of a monarchy, you now have people wearing a turban ruling over you. It basically changed from the, kings and stuff to the religious people.
Israel attacked when everybody, or not everybody, sorry, religious people, at least people that believe in the government or whatever, were like, oh yeah, bro, no, they're not gonna attack Iran. They will not have they will not have enough courage to attack Iran, right? Why? Because everybody every day comes to the television, to the national television, or like here and there, whatever, big people in the government. Yeah, we have this, we develop this, we develop that. They're not gonna attack us. People, if you don't have money today, if you don't have bread to eat, if you don't have food on your table, at least you have immunity. What immunity? Like that's the problem. That's what they came to us with, and everybody we would make memes of it all while missiles, while like stuff exploding, and while the anti-air system working, people were smoking shisha on, I mean, hookah or whatever you call it, on top of their roof watching it. That's so funny. Or like I remember like restaurants in Lebanon were charging people for watching the Iranian missiles. It's just a joke, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people were like just making jokes off of it, and they were not even taking it seriously, because the whole thing is just yeah the Iranian military tweets and stuff, bro. That was funny. But that was completely that was probably a 15-year-old dude behind a Twitter account just yapping some. So yeah, actually affected this animal too, to be honest. Like what happens in the Middle East makes the gas over here more expensive, makes living more expensive here, and well, more people have to immigrate to other countries and stuff because of these reasons.
Actually, 1 month before the war broke out, I left Iran, and it was actually a very random thing. I was leaving. I wanted to leave actually on 22nd of May or so, but instead I left already in 18th of April. And I think the war happened around beginning of June, mid June. I don't remember, but around that time. So, um, why did I leave Iran? And I actually left in stress too. Was because my cat Zoro got cancer, and I didn't know how many more weeks or months he has. So I said, Amir, listen, I want to be there for Zoro in the last months. Zoro is my cat that I grew up with since I was a small child. So that was really important to me, and I left without Amir already 1 month sooner. We were always traveling between Switzerland and Iran anyways. Officially already living in Switzerland, but he had still his studies going on in Iran so he returned so he could really graduate basically from his university and write those exams and so on. And then what happens while he's there, in those few weeks that he's there, war breaks out. It was horrible. I mean, I cannot even describe, first of all, like, for me, it was horrible. For him, it was horrible. It still is horrible. It still is on. Finish like what happened at the border. Like you said, you went with this taxi and so on, but we didn't finish that part. So how you crossed the border and your experiences in that time.
But when we got to the border, basically, we saw big lines of people trying to leave the country. Most of them actually not living in Iran anymore. So they were Iranians that were just seeing their family, just coming back to Iran to see their family, and then leave to their own like houses, maybe their own homes in different countries. I saw on the other side, you would see people that are entering Iran, okay, from Turkey, from the ground border. So I saw families come back to Iran, and that's in that situation in the third day of the war, third day or fourth day. Yeah, basically. So what happened was that they probably were on vacation or whatever. They left to see their family, whatever. But all of their life is in Iran. They have to go back to it. And some of those families didn't even know that they were going back to an apartment that was maybe not even there anymore. Because as I noticed, it was not only one or two places that were hit. There's so many places that were hurt, like in the better side of the city, bad side of the city. I mean, mostly better side of the city. That's the funny thing, because Tehran has this downtown section, has this rich people block, has this like, I don't know, normal people blog, I guess, like, the small cities, small like suburbs, want to call it. I mean, they're all apartments, they're not suburbs, but let's say like residential areas, and it has more of office areas and stuff. So you just saw how these expensive places got hit all of the time. And then the news came out that this big government person died or whatever. Tells us what? That tells us that what's going on at the level of corruption, the level of like how things go forward for these people in the government, and why they're not speaking about this at all. Because they're living in their chill house, they're chilling, they have their money, they have everything going on. Why should they talk about it? And when I don't know, when about internet and stuff, people, the ministers and stuff come up and say, oh, the first person that wants the filtering gone is my son. That doesn't really stick to people. That doesn't make people happy. And guess what? About what Sabrina said, yeah, these government people have access to internet, that internet or anything that they want, really, that is completely unrestricted, because they are the better people, right? Because they have this level of like, they are the first degree, we call them first degree people, first degree citizens. Everybody else in the country is a second degree or third degree citizen. Let me tell you something else, is that, for example, let's say like your education is in about internet and stuff. The reason that is so important for us is because everything has become digitalized nowadays, right? Most jobs in Iran are made by people themselves. The government doesn't make any jobs. There's no job. There are some 5% of people, 5% of people, of young people. Okay, that's a lot of people that have no jobs or not even studying. Why should somebody study or go to work when both don't get? And then I crossed the border. I got into Turkey, and then the van that had to take us to the first city was 3-4 hours late. We saw so many people fight there because they were so done with everything. Uh, their temper was really like going high and high. Like everybody was fighting over something, small or big, I don't know. And kids, people, everybody in the hot weather of like the border of Iran and Turkey. It was crazy. And then at the end of the day, we got into the van, we got into the city, and then now we had to find somewhere to stay, and then now we had to buy a ticket. And how do you buy a ticket? Well, it's a good thing that I have Sabrina here, right? So I text Sabrina, I'm like, oh, I see this ticket right now, we have to buy it. And we buy the ticket for the next day. So the second I get into the city and I see people are trying to find tickets, some people had to buy tickets, like bus tickets that took 24 hours to get to Istanbul, and that was crazy. And yeah, I was in Van, yeah, in a small city beside the, yeah, in Turkey for the night. But I saw other people basically just having tickets for the next 2 weeks. So they were kind of stuck in Van for 2 weeks. And imagine, like, SIM cards don't work, nothing works. I had no connection with my family, no connection with anybody for a long time, and nobody knew what was happening.
People would call each other like by landline, right? To give each other news like this place got bombed right now, that happened, because they didn't have any internet.
No internet, yeah.
Where do you get your news from? What do you know? Are your relatives safe right now? Is anybody, like, what's happening in your country?
Yeah, we didn't know anything. So basically, going with that, I got myself to Istanbul, and again, I had my next ticket was for the next day. Again, I stayed in Istanbul airport for around 17 hours, and sat on a bench for, I don't know, around like 12 hours or something. Sat on a bench for 12 hours. I was like, that was crazy. I never did that. But then I got on the plane. I was like, okay, I'm soon in Switzerland, and I was so tired. I remember, like, I didn't even notice that I got to Switzerland. It was so, and I left my apartment, everything there, and couldn't do anything really, like, to take care of it, and just
I just remember how it was for me from outside, because I was in touch with him, and I remember the same night that they started bombing Tehran, I was on a call with him.
so imagine, like, that night that Israel attacked Iran, basically a few hours before it, right? I was talking with Sabrina over how, like, the European Union is going to start a snapback mechanism or whatever they have, right? And there was like rumors going around, and the market. So basically, the market, the black market of currencies kind of reacted to that, and things got more expensive a bit, or was getting more expensive. And I saw that on the charts, and I was like, okay, I have a bit of money. I had some money saved up, of course, for paying the government for leaving Iran, and for the papers later on and stuff. And I was like, okay, let me do something. I mean, I don't need it right now, right? So I'm here for a month and I don't need it really. So let me just buy everything, put everything in dollars, and put it aside until I need it, so it doesn't really get more expensive than this. The second I buy everything I had dollars, the second I buy it and I try to go sleep, after 2-3 hours, Israel attacks. And yeah, as I expected, the money that I put in lost 30% of its value in 3 hours. Lost 30% value in 3 hours if I didn't buy dollars. So that's kind of what I'm talking about, And I felt like the luckiest person on earth, right? And let me tell you something else. That's not even the most crazy part. The crazy part is that when I bought Tether USDT for as crypto, in dollars, so I keep my money safe, I took that money out of the exchange and put it in a wallet, beside, basically, in my own phone. 5 hours, around 5 hours after that, the exchange gets hacked by Israel. You can read the news out there too on Twitter and stuff. It's called Nobitex, Nobitex. It got hacked completely. The whole thing went down. Everybody lost their money. I think around $100 million was stolen from it and burnt. So what does Israel do? Israel takes $100 million from this exchange that is people's money, basically, normal people's money, and more than 20 million people, 20, 30 million people using that place, puts it in a random wallet that nobody has access to. And that's it. I mean, I think people got their money back, but it took like 2 months until now, like 1.5 months or something. So that's what happened. And something else that happened. While I got all of my money in the wallet and stuff, I emptied my bank account. So I had only a bit of money left to just use for stuff, buying stuff and groceries. So the next day, my bank account gets hacked. Like the bank that I had the bank account in. Three of the bank accounts that I had got hacked. It was just funny at this point. We were laughing about it with my friends, and they are not attacking Iran. They are attacking people at this point. Is there anything else I have to add?
Well, basically, like, right, I think it's not obvious enough, but all exchange rates were then like closed, right? So you couldn't even exchange any money, like.
No.
And you couldn't. I think Tether and everything got closed too, right? You couldn't send any money even from the usual proxies that people usually do to move money from Iran to outside. And what do you need in times of war, right? You need to have money or be able to move money from Iran to outside. You want to be able to pay your flight tickets. You want to be able to pay different things, right? And in that exact moment where you need it the most, everything closed down. So Amir was very lucky in that sense that he had done this transaction right a couple hours before the whole war happened in the first place. And I wanted to add that it was not obvious. It was not obvious whether it was going to be war at that time, right? It was like, oh, whatever. A lot of people were like in Iran, okay, it's just going to be a tit for tat attack. Basically, just they're going to just hit this one place. It's fine. It's like, I mean, already hitting one place is actually not normal, but let's say for Iranians it's normal, as in, as in when you are in a cold war zone, I would say. I don't know how else to describe. It's kind of like, okay, whatever, like stuff like that happens. Okay, so this one place exploded, but that doesn't mean war, sure. Like full on war. But that's the thing. I kind of knew, like, this is a full scale war. You gotta fucking go. And I told him already. I was like, you gotta go. But for all these days, he was still like, no, I want my bachelor. I want those papers. I came here for that. This and that. I'm not mocking you, but it's just kind of crazy, like the stubbornness you had. And I was like, bro, fuck your bachelor, fuck everything, fucking be safe and come here. Yeah, that was just crazy. So for 3 days, I spent convincing him he has to leave Iran. And before that, his whole family was convinced, oh, whatever, it's nothing big, it's not a war, we're okay, we're fine. And there's also a whole lot of propaganda in Iran itself to the people where it's like, we are strong, we will, destroy the enemy. They talk like they literally call Israel like the enemy and so on. And some people are really
The whole situation and how things actually can turn like that. What is a war zone? What is a war? Like basically in the flesh. I try to tell you guys how I felt when I went through it, and I got out of it, of course, and I'm really happy and I'm really privileged to be here right now. But all my friends out there, all the people that are out there, and they're talking to me. They talk to me and they tell me, bro, it's just you're so lucky to be out there right now and this and that. And I'm like, yeah, I know that, but it doesn't mean that I'm looking from outside and not caring anymore. It's just it felt like the second I got out of Iran, like everything just came to me twice as bad. When I was in Iran, when I heard some people died or something, I was sad. But when I was outside of Iran, it was 10 times more, like worse than that.
mention. I didn't mention my side and how it was for me, so let's get into that. Basically, well, it was crazy for me because I was in the middle of planning and having my first art exhibition ever, and I was so excited, and then all of this shit happens, and I'm like, what the fuck? Suddenly, all of your like personal goals, all of your like dreams and shit, they just fade away just like that. It's like in that moment, the most important thing for me was that to know that Amir is safe and the people that I know in Iran are safe. And I remember just every night being on Telegram channels, the Iranian ones, having my translator there, translating all the news. Every hour there was some new shit happening. Every fucking hour. It was horrible. And there was not one moment where you could just chill. Imagine even if you switched off the phone, the next, like after a couple hours, 3 hours would pass, 300 messages already, 300 more news to see, 300 more things that probably happened. And at some point it got so bad I realized, well, if I continue just consuming these news all the time, trying to keep up what is happening at every hour, I'm not living. I didn't live in that time really. So I found out, okay, what can I do, right? What can I really do? And then I thought, you know what? Every day I just check in with the people I know if they're safe and if they're okay. That's it. So every day I would text people. I'd be like, how is this and this person? Is everybody safe? Are you guys okay? That's it. And at some point I just stopped looking at news because otherwise you don't continue with your life. Obviously, I stayed in touch with Amir as much as I could every single moment. We would actually text as much as we could within the circumstances of him having bad internet. I was here trying to research, calling the embassy and so on. I was calling the Swiss embassy. They didn't help for shit. They were like, whatever, he's not a Swiss citizen. But even if I were stuck there, me myself, they didn't pick up the Swiss people. They didn't care. You just had to go by land and plan it yourself. They didn't help you at all. Like, at all. Like, for real. Not even like giving you contacts for lawyers, at least, or anything. Because there was also for a very long time the fear of him not being able to leave the country. We didn't know. Was he gonna be allowed to leave the country? I mean, right now it's kind of a sus situation. He has to serve military by next month officially because he's graduating next month, and for 2 years would be the military service. So what is gonna happen? So the whole time I was like, maybe he has to illegally cross the border, and illegally crossing the border is fucking dangerous as fuck. Like, you have literally the Turkish people beating you the fuck up and raping women and so on at the border.
We
Research.
didn't want to do that.
We didn't want to do that.
I wouldn't do that.
Okay, yeah. But I went into all the research in case, trying to find contacts, trying to find people there.
You mean we got to that point?
So, like, trying to plan every possible scenario, right? The scenario of leaving. And then I was planning his route. I was like, okay, listen, here, this city you pass, this city you pass, this city is safe, this city is not. But I was like, obviously, like, trying to plan it with him together based on news and everything. And in the end, I mean, I also told him, every time when you are in a city, tell me so I know where your last place was. Because in case anything happens, I at least can tell people, hey, can you, like, maybe I can reach out to someone and find out, hey, is this person safe? Even if not for you directly, but indirectly. So I told him, okay, keep me updated. Tell me where you are in each city, basically, when you're leaving. And also the process of leaving was, on one hand, you need the allowance of university, and on the other hand, you need the allowance of the police. So, and after a couple days, right, the whole website shut down, was not working to even get allowances to leave the country. So I think you were so lucky. It was like a miracle after another miracle. I mean, the same roads that you had passed in Tehran that were bombed just hours before and after. Then you had passed the north the next day. The north, those same roads you passed, those same cities you passed were bombed. I mean, that is crazy. And at the same time, I feel like maybe there's some sort of divine reason, but I don't know. It's weird, anyways. And even the way you, like, you didn't mention, but the way you got your university papers to leave. I mean, the person working there was just coming to pick up something in their office. Something in their office. They didn't work. They were like, I'm gonna take holidays, or what was it? Gonna take holidays for the next 2 weeks. So if he hadn't, just by chance, he showed up and he sat in front of the office waiting for this person to come. They randomly picked up and were like, okay, let me accept your request to leave, to leave the country, the university worker. I mean, all these things happening and them even letting you leave, I thought, oh no, it's so obvious. Like, come on, it's just he's graduating soon. He has to do military service. They won't let him leave because it's not in their interest, right? They obviously want people in the military. And when is it important? Now more than ever. Not to mention, we also have friends that are actively doing the military service. So we have a friend, he has been we're not in contact with him right now because he literally has been drafted. He has his 2-year military service in the middle of this whole thing going on. His whole generation is kind of in the generation of doing military service or having, yeah. So it's horrible, and we cannot even contact, like, military service is not chill there. It's not like in Switzerland or whatever. It's not normal. It's like 3 months you start being trained, and then like they shoot in the middle of the night and wake you up, just for, well, because in war you have to know how to do that and so on. They send you wherever they want to, sometimes the borders. And as we know, the borders in Iran, they're not safe. A lot of times there are shootings and so on at the border. Yeah. So soldiers dying and we don't have contact with that friend right now because he's not allowed to have a phone. So like 3 months of just us not knowing, like, bro, you okay? Yeah. Are you alive? Like, just, it's horrible. And having friends too in like Mashhad and stuff, having a friend have an explosion basically beside him, a fire breaking out beside his sister's place or whatever, things like that. You cannot imagine how horrible this whole thing is and was and still is, and the consequences of the people now, right after surviving a war. No fucking water, no internet, new layered internet laws that they put. If there was any hope, right, for the youth in the future, which there was already very little with everything, with the inflation and stuff, it's now crushed. Now even the people, like even the middle class that had the families and, that were kind of okay and living okay in Iran, even they are thinking of leaving now. Not even thinking, but being forced to leave. I mean, what are those conditions? What do you want to do there? There's nothing you can do there. There's no future. Like, where there was maybe crumbs or a glimpse of future in Iran before for people, nothing is left. Everything is destroyed. Amir cannot return because he has the military service, and otherwise they would draft him instantly. So he cannot see his family. And I cannot return probably too, because they might say I'm a spy or whatever. And they also don't let tourists come in. I think they don't let, all visas are banned. So overall, it's bad for tourism, obviously, too, which was in the recent years a little bit going better. It's already we saw a lot of like content, Americans, people from Sweden, like people from Europe coming to Iran and being like, wow, the country is nice and so on. It's actually not the way the news show it. And now all of that destroyed, nobody like being able to see their family, nobody really being able.
And thank you for listening and stuff, for being here. Yeah, for educational purposes, basically. Yeah.
Bye-bye. Good
Bye-bye.
night.
See you guys. Bye.